Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee, Books, and Rain. I'm Rachel, and I have a cup of tea instead of coffee this afternoon, only because my coffee pot is empty. So, sadly, we made yet another little beverage to drink. And since it's about 5:30 in the evening, I thought, maybe just some mint tea. Trying to figure out a way. This little handle is not the best, little grabby handle. It's kind of tiny for my hand. And I swear my hands aren't that big. But moving on from all of that, we are talking about A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett, and this is book 2 of Shadow of the Leviathan. Now, I first ran across this book, not this book, but the first one of the series, The Tainted Cup, and I loved it. It has this, you can definitely call it like supernatural fantasy vibe, but Sherlock Holmesy Watson also esque vibe. So they do consider this to fall in the realm of mystery, fantasy fiction, mystery thriller as well. It even has the genre of LGBT and sci-fi fiction fantasy. So it does fall into all of those categories, and I really do agree that the contents within are great and all-encompassing in a lot of different genre, and I think that's why I enjoy it so much, because I get to enjoy a fantasy world where a lot of things are incredibly possible, usually due to just because it is a fantasy world, thus the rules of our world don't always apply. But you also then get the mystery thriller of something has happened, such as a murder, and we go through the process of very Sherlock Holmes and Watson of putting those pieces together and trying to figure out what happened. So let's dive into the summary before we get too far into my thoughts. The brilliant detective Anna Delobra may have finally met her match in the gripping sequel to The Tainted Cup from the best-selling author of the Founders Trilogy. In the canton of Yarrowdale, at the very edge of the Empire's reach, an impossible crime has occurred. A Treasury officer has disappeared into thin air, abducted from his quarters while the door and windows remained locked from the inside, in a building whose entrances and exits are all under constant guard. To solve the case, the Empire calls on its most brilliant and mercurial investigator, the great Anna Delobra. At her side, as always, is her bemused assistant, Denios Cole. Before long, Anna's discovered that they're not investigating a disappearance, but a murder, and that the killing was just the first chess move by an adversary who seems to be able to pass through boarded doors like a ghost, and who can predict every one of Anna's moves as though they see the future. Worse still, the killer seems to be targeting the high-security compound known as the Shroud. Here, the Empire's greatest minds dissect fallen titans to harness the volatile magic found in their blood. Should it fall, the destruction would be terrible indeed, and the Empire itself would grind to a halt, robbed of the magic that allows its wheels of power to turn. Den has seen Anna solve impossible cases before, but this time, with the stakes even higher, Anna seemingly a step behind their adversary at every turn. He fears that his superior has finally met an enemy she can't defeat. Now, this book is, I don't want to say it's lengthy, but it is about 480 pages. So it is longer than some books that I've been reading lately, which tend to run between the 250 to 300. But I still got through this book very quickly because that murder mystery suspense really keeps you on the edge of your seat and keeps you turning pages. It is expected to be published on April 1st, so even though I may not release this episode exactly on the 1st, it will be released sometime in a window around that date. So hopefully, if you're watching this, if you're interested in this book series, you may be interested in going out and finding it. I think the cover looks pretty cool. I think it could be, I, I definitely can. I will state that there are not always, like, all of my books that I read do sometimes feel geared more towards like feminine audience, or that or the other. This book feels like it really could be for all, and I like that. I like that the book could be just for anybody who likes sci-fi. Not too much romance, not too much just I guess you could say girly things happening, if you're not into romance books, because this book doesn't really have romance from, like, I guess what I would picture it. Now, does Din go out at one point and have a good night? Yes, absolutely. Could there be other instances down the road in this book? Maybe, but I'm not going to divulge those sorts of things to you. It's not a romance based book. It is more of a mystery thriller with some fantasy sci-fi elements, and there you go. So everyone can really enjoy it. Also, another note is that I do not believe you have to read the first one in order to read this one in the series. I do feel as though they do stand alone well enough, especially with the contents of each of the cases within each book, so that way you do not have to read them in order, but it does probably make a little more sense just to know the background behind Anna and Din's relationship and how they work together. And when I say relationship, I'm not talking about, again, any sort of romantic relationship. It is a working relationship. So there you go. I will say I love this series. I was waiting for this book. So happy that I picked it up and got it, because it is just keeps the momentum rolling from the first one. The first one, The Tainted Cup, in my personal opinion, did start just a little slow. But we did have a little bit of world building to do, since it is a fantasy book. And we, as readers, had never entered this particular type of world before. So I think they needed to set that sort of foundation in the first one, which can be a little slower in kind of the building and getting into the story. But then you get to this one where the world is definitely getting more fleshed out. We're getting to learn a little bit more about it, but we're not having to focus so much on that world building, because if we've read the first one, we're familiar with what's going on. It does feel, in my personal opinion, we've still got that like Sherlock Holmes Watson sort of vibe. And it's very interesting because Din is what they call in this particular world an engraver. He can smell a smell, like he has a lot of different like vials. And so when he smells a smell, he almost makes an imprint in his mind of the room exactly how it is. And it doesn't have to be a room, but a scene or setting or person in exactly how it is in that moment. It gets engraved in his mind. So then he will return back to Anna, who Anna doesn't seem to go out incredibly frequently. She seems to be the type of person who's very particular about things. And so we are always encountering Anna just doing random things. So the very first time in this book that we encounter Anna, she had been already doing kind of what I would call weird stuff in the first book. She's doing some weird stuff in the second book. She is literally like sitting on the floor, opening all of these oysters. And to everyone else, these oysters have started to turn. You can smell the aroma of these oysters. However, Anna is still sitting on the floor, prying them open and eating them. And she says the reason she's doing that is because each oyster tastes different based on where it came from. And I don't know if that means like on the reef or the rocks or wherever it was pulled up from. So each of them has a different flavor profile to her. So she's got these eccentricities, but she is genetically modified in different ways. So I do think all of her senses are much more heightened. she also has that sort of Sherlock Holmesian type of mentality of not being able to socialize incredibly well with other people at times. And we also have another character that appears in this book who does kind of work with Din, and she has some heightened senses as well. And one of her heightened senses is smell. She is very, very affected by smells around her, that she can kind of tell where someone has been or what they've eaten or a lot of other things, which is a really cool concept. And I forget, I do think she's modified. I think she's one of the people who's been modified. But again, the story is not so much about these people and their modifications. It's about this particular crime or situation that's happened. And this one, when Din is out and about doing kind of like investigative work, he is trying his best to figure out what does Anna need to know, questions that Anna would ask should she be present at a scene. So he's trying to ask those questions so he can bring that information back. He can always already kind of convey what a setting looks like based on the engraving, but remembering like, okay, I need to ask this question, I need to ask this question, and then trying to put some of those pieces together for her before he kind of gets back to her to give his report. And I really, really like the way these books are woven together, because the mystery really does take front and center place with regards to trying to do it in a very locked door murder mystery type of way. Sorry, my nose is itchy and I hate to just like saw at it, but it's kind of itching, so I'm kind of trying to tap it to make it not itch so much. I don't know. I think it's the pollen is starting to get to me a little bit. But this book is really cool. 100% give it probably 5 stars, because I will continue to seek these books out. I will probably also buy these books to put them on my shelves. I think that they are cleverly done, and especially with this fantasy murder mystery adventure, 2 of my very favorite genres to dive into. If you've been on this show for been watching this show for any amount of time, or this channel, you will know I read quite a bit of murder mysteries. And even in this one, which is a little more sci-fi fantasy, still has those hallmark kind of points of kind of staying true to the murder mystery genre. And I really like that, because we've got, if you've ever been to a bank and they've got like bank vaults, well, these are like super secure bank vaults, and now we've got a head that somehow made it into one of these bank vaults, even though it was supposed to be locked with what you could say is kind of a bio lock, which only supposedly a specific person with a certain biosignature, which would be like maybe not your handprint, but your hand and blood print mixed together, is only supposed to be able to open. However, whoever got into these boxes had some ability to overcome that. And yes, I am trying to be vague. I am trying not to spoil anything, because if a good murder mystery, I don't want to spoil. I really don't. But I'm trying to stay, like I said, on the surface level to just give you some highlights. We've got a city that's, I would say, it kind of feels a little dirty, but it's got a great atmosphere. It's like there's like kind of the royal riche areas, the bougie areas. You've got kind of what you could call like the poorer, impoverished areas. We've got people who don't like the tax collectors, so of course that's kind of a funny thing. Anna's kind of peculiarities, Din, and just the way he tries to stay so even keel, but it just doesn't work for him half the time. And so I'm glad that we get to see him kind of like let loose a little bit. Just, we find out some of what his proclivities are, which is fantastic. I love learning more about these characters. This one is a lighter read. I don't think, even with the theming of murder mystery, it is not a heavy read. it does go quickly, and you do enjoy like kind of turning the page and continuing to find all these different pieces that are getting put together. I still never know, or at least with the first one, it was kind of hard to figure out until you got to the end. This one also great development to get us to that end, and like kind of the who done it of it all. But I think I'm probably going to leave it there. I don't want to give you too much more, because I want you to go out there and read it and find it and be intrigued by this particular story. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go. I hope you will go out and find more about the Shroud and these Leviathans and I guess when I say the types of magic they use, it does seem to be more of this body modification type magic, and I love it. I think it's cool. But I'm going to let you guys go. So I hope you guys have a great one. I hope that if you've ever got any recommendations or anything like that, that you will let me know. Also, if you don't mind liking and subscribing, that would be phenomenal. But no worries. I do this for my fun, for just because I really like books and read them all the time. And so I need an outlet to be able to talk to them, talk about them to people. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and I will see you guys on the next page. I hope you have a great one.